Now we have our open forums monthly. I hope that you have previously received invitations and you will so in the future as well on different spotlighted aspects of your Aliyah, post-Aliyah. We had on driver's license, we've had on banking. Past webinars can always be found on YouTube, where you can find so many informational webinars, and this one as well. If you ever have ideas for other spotlighted webinars for us to do, please let us know. Sippy has already put into the chat our contact information. And if you've never contacted us, please do so, because we're so happy to answer your questions, whether it's why strawberries haven't come into the market yet, they're going to come soon, to why did I get this ticket, to why am I paying this Bituach Leumi bill. So I'm ready to get started. Now, this is a spotlight. Some of you have written in other questions about Arnona, about lots of different things, because it's also an open forum, sort of like a kiddush that you want to come, get your information, and leave. I would like to start with Bituach Leumi because it really is a very heavy topic to understand and to absorb. And at the end, we will open up for questions, especially those of you who did write on other general topics. So let's begin. What is Bituach Leumi? Well, let's get my thing to work. Hold on one second. Right. So what is Bituach Leumi? One second. Technical difficulties. Here we go. What is Bituach Leumi? Bituach Leumi is the National Insurance Institute. They are responsible for all of the different insurance programs in the country. What's an insurance program? An insurance program is your health care. It is child money that people get for having children. It's disability. It's unemployment. It is long-term care, and even it is burial throughout the country. In fact, their jingle is all about from birth till death, which sounds a little bit morbid, but that is their jingle. They're responsible for really the foundations of all of the different social programming in the country. Who is responsible to being a part of Bituach Leumi? Every resident of the country. Now, some of you may notice I said resident and not citizen. I bet all of you have a question about residency versus citizenship. We're going to get to that, but that is why I said the residents of the country, the people who have Israel as their center of life, have an obligation to pay into the Bituach Leumi. We're going to talk about this in depth, whether it is a healthcare contribution or whether it is a national contribution, ad 120 till 120, unless, and we can fill in the blanks very soon. There are various populations and various reasons why a person may not actively pay into the Bituach Leumi. Why does a person pay Bituach Leumi? So that they can be considered an insured individual in the country. Insured means that you have the opportunity to be part of your healthcare system. We're going to talk about this more in depth. Insured means that, God forbid, if you are under the age of retirement, we're going to get to what is the age of retirement. If you are under the age of retirement and you need to apply for unemployment or disability or mobility disability, which is not the same as a handicap tag, that is why you pay into the Bituach Leumi. Or maybe you are eligible for long-term care, and as an insured individual, as long as you meet the criteria, we will be talking about that as well. That is why you pay into Bituach Leumi. From the moment you declare yourself a citizen of the country, that means from your date of Aliyah, you are considered a resident and therefore under the umbrella of the Bituach Leumi. That is when Bituach Leumi becomes a part of your life, whether you are aware of that or not. Okay, so as I mentioned, they are the national insurance. Now, if some of you are from Canada, you might be a little bit more familiar with the concept, or England, you might be a little bit more familiar with the concept of a national insurance, a more socialized system. For those of you from the United States, it's very much a foreign concept. I actually presented today to all of the different managers of Leumi branches throughout the country. And my role was to explain how the healthcare system is just so different for those coming from the United States in particular, because it is. So if you've come from the US, you're just not familiar with that concept of a socialized system, something that is actually really available to everyone. Because as you may remember, when you made Aliyah, nobody asked how old you were, nobody asked about pre-existing conditions. You were granted the opportunity to be part of the healthcare system immediately, whatever immediately meant to you, if you had any kind of pre-existing Israeli status, but nobody cared about your age or any kind of pre-existing condition. And that is because the national insurance is for everyone. And if you've never looked at the Bituach Leumi website, I encourage you to do so. That address is btl.gov.il. Now, I have it here translated into English. If you look at the top in the center, you will see that it's also available in other languages. I give it a 9.5 out of 10 in terms of its translation because it really is pretty thorough. Once in a while, you can say, is this like a Google Translate? Who translated it? But overall, it's not particularly, jargony. It's pretty easy to understand. And while I couldn't screenshot everything below, you can see about benefits, you can see about insurance contributions, and over a good cup of coffee, I would really encourage you to have a look so that you can be a little bit more familiar with what it is that I'm talking about when I talk about the Bituach Leumi. In 2025, almost 26, it's true that we've become so digitally oriented. And it's true that, we do let our fingers do the walking. If you remember that commercial from the Yellow Pages, if you're from the US. And today we do let our fingers do the walking and we Google things and we have a thought about something and we Google it. And so if you wanted to say, how do I get a handicap tag in Israel? You could Google that. And so I do encourage you to try to become a little bit familiar because the more information that you know, the more that you can own that information. When you come up to a certain situation and you're like, I don't think so. I think that I read on the Bituach Leumi website that my contribution is to be such, or that I'm eligible for a given benefit. You now own something. You don't have to just be the receiver of that information. So many times as Olim, we feel that, I'm an Olah, I don't know anything. I guess what you're going to tell me is to be true. And if you've ever met a good Israeli, everything that we say is, of course, true. We're just a little opinionated, and everything that we want to say is Torah Sinai is like the bottom line, but that's not always true, as some of you may have already experienced. I'm not paying attention to the chat. I'm leaving that to Tzipi, and Tzipi will stop me in case there's anything that really, really needs to be attended to. Oh, back one. So I've given you a bit of an introduction to Bituach Leumi. We started, if you recall, with the who, what, where, why. A very good way for you to now become a little bit more enmeshed and accountable for yourself within the world of Bituach Leumi is by creating a personal account. In Hebrew, it's called an atar ishi, a personal portal. It is in Hebrew. It's step, 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 step. Send a code to your phone, send a code to your email, sort of like a little bit of a Fort Knox opportunity. However, once you have this done, it will give you then this portal, which will give you insight to who you are within the world of Bituach Leumi. We do have a tutorial on our website. It's not a webinar, so no one's speaking to you. It's a step-by-step, and I understand that it can be overwhelming. Even if you can understand it, sometimes we get to this point like, can you just do it for me already? I've done so much. I made Aliyah 3 weeks ago. I'm running here, I'm running there. Now I heard this is important. I made Aliyah 3 years ago, and I'm still running here and I'm still running there. Couldn't someone please help me? So this is a great time for me to mention, and I'm going to mention it at the end as well, about different services that we have in the Post Aliyah Answers and Advocacy Department. They may be services such as what we call Translation Station, that you can come into our office in Yerushalayim or in Tel Aviv during the course of the week by appointment and sit with someone who will, it's called translation, but it doesn't only have to be translation. It could be something like this. It could be navigating a certain online system. It could be setting up different systems. It's meant to give you a one-on-one opportunity to sit with someone of an aspect, whether it's Hebrew or navigation of something, for you to have that designated time for assistance. We also have volunteers who have volunteered to work with Olim. That's something that they would like to do. And over Zoom or over the phone, they can also help you set this up. Once you have an account, this is what it looks like. I want to access my account. Now, this is all in Hebrew, and you're going to say to yourself, oh my gosh, it's in Hebrew. Why couldn't she do it in English? Just so that I could see what I would want to see if I wanted to Google Translate. I hope that you are all familiar with that wonderful concept of Google Translate, which, there's lots of Google things to translate. I personally just do a right click and I can translate it. But that doesn't mean that the whole site is going to be translated. Very often, I might need to go page by page. So we will focus on the English here. And once I have an account, I have one of two ways to get into my account. I can either, as you see, put in my identity number, put in the user code that I will be given when I set it up, and I will put in the password that I have chosen. When I set it up, I'm going to be given a temporary password, and then right away, like the next step is to create your own password. And then I can put in enter, or I can put in just my identity number, my mispar zehut from my teudat zehut, and they will send me a code either through an SMS or a voice call or an email. And I just want to make sure, right, okay. Is helpful for each individual over the age of 18 to have their own account. Not everybody here is the same age, and I really want to be able to globalize as much as possible. But if you are married, it is helpful for you each to have your own account, and we're going to see why in a moment. And now we have an account, and it's going to say, hello, so-and-so. And you'll see it's mine, the Teudat Zehut number, birth date, the address as it's listed in Misrad HaPnim. If you've ever listened to any other webinar, we've told you many times why it's so important to keep your address updated on your sefach, on your addendum of your Teudat Zehut, because this is how you are known in the country, by that address. If you have moved and you never change that address on your sefach, I'm going to take a moment to encourage you to do so. It doesn't take an appointment. Just go to the Misrad HaPnim when they have open reception, bring proof of your new address because it may be asked for, and they will give you a new sefach, a new addendum to your ID card on the spot. You see here the email address, phone numbers, and so forth. It also gives me a memo because on a certain date, they sent me some information. And did I get that information? On the right-hand side, it gives me action items. It gives me my personal details, nitunei bituach. Were too many people for me to say who has, but if somebody perhaps has lost their residency, which is something we're going to talk about, I would click on the second item there, and it would tell me from when I am considered a resident or when I lost my residency. I had for many years a cleaning person. Did you know that you are obligated to pay the Bituach Leumi for your ozeret, for your cleaning lady? This may come as a surprise to some of you. And that is your obligation. It's very little money that you pay, but it protects you. And so that is here because I had that many years ago. I can also upload documentation. If I wanted to upload something coming from within my portal, gives a lot more credence, and I know that it's staying within my information. There is also further down something that says Sur Kesher. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sur Kesher. Sur Kesher means I have a question. I want to know why I got a bill for X. I can write that in English and I'll be answered in English. Again, I really encourage you, to have a personal portal and play around with it. And if you're not sure how to make the portal or how to play around with it, please do give us a call. So I mentioned at the beginning that the Bituach Leumi is a friend for everyone, young and old. Everyone has an obligation in some way to the Bituach Leumi, and the Bituach Leumi, moreover, has an obligation to you. You may not feel it. You may say, I don't know, I just pay them, and I don't get anything for it. So the definition of anything might be different for different people. But what you do all receive is the opportunity to be part of the healthcare system. However, if you lost your residency, then you would not be part of the healthcare system, nor would you be considered insured by the Bituach Leumi. So, and for those of you who are with us in the very beginning, I spoke about citizenship and residency. And I spoke about how the Bituach Leumi is an obligation for all residents. A resident of a country is someone who sees Israel, who experiences Israel as their center of life. It's not I bought an apartment here 20 years ago and I really, really want to be here and my heart is in Israel, but I still have my business and I have my kids and I have my parents. We're so blessed today to see others living on to really golden years. I have things that come up and I have smachot that come up and I really just can't stay put. And that's okay. But where is your center of life? It's not that you can't ever leave the country. God forbid. We know that everybody travels. But where is your center of life? Where do you spend physically the majority of your time? I've had people say, well, I'm in Israel like 2 weeks a month. Is that the majority of their time? No, it is not. What other proofs do they have that Israel is their center of life? Do they rent or own a home? Do they have a bank account? Do they have other family members here? Now, sometimes you have a spouse who's a traveling spouse for employment, and the rest of the family is here in Israel. That individual's residency most likely will not come under question simply because his center of life or her center of life hopefully are the other spouse and children who are here in Israel. There are so many different components that go into the concept of residency, but something that I can tell you that all of you share is where is physically your center of life. Some of you may have made Aliyah today because your FBI background check was expiring and gosh, you did it already once before. You don't want to have to pay for it again. It's a real headache. We actually met with Bituach Leumi almost 2 years ago already because they had no idea that that was a thing. Because yes, it is true. Misfara Pnim and Misfara Klita and Bituach Leumi, they don't all talk to each other. They don't all know each other's regulations and rules. I know it's a surprise. And so we sat with them because they couldn't understand why do people make Aliyah on Monday and they leave on Tuesday for months at a time? Because for various reasons, and then they had to go back and sell their house and close their business and who knows what. But the more transparency you can have with Bituach Leumi, the better it is for you, for them to somehow understand. Now let's take the example that you have not yet had your residency determined because you just made Aliyah somewhere within the first 12 months of your Aliyah. And now you're going to travel because you want to keep your house in Florida and you're going to travel for the winter months. 45 days, about 45 days after your departure, you most likely will get an email in Hebrew that will say lots of different things with the number 45. And so that's what I hope that you will take away from this is you're going to look for the number 45. And this letter will say, we understand that you've left. You have 45 days to appeal us taking away your residency. Give us a reason. Tell us why you've gone. Tell us when you've returned. Some of you may already know that we really do try to encourage everyone to inform Bituach Leumi of their departure within their first year specifically, if they're going to be gone for a month or more. All this does, this is not a guarantee. It does help us advocate in some way, and communication is always good, and over communicating is always good. So now you were told that you received this letter. Will you receive it? Well, let's see. If you're busy vacationing, you didn't look at your email. If you are looking at your email, but it came in Hebrew, you might not have paid attention. If it came to your email but went into your spam, you definitely weren't aware of it. If you had a personal portal, then you would be aware of it. There's a section in the personal portal that's called letters. And very often, because not only where I live, but throughout the country, when we call it snail mail, we really mean it snail mail because mail very, very slowly comes to our mailboxes, but digitally it can come right away. And so this gives you the opportunity to appeal why you have been gone and when are you coming home? When are you coming back to Israel? Sometimes there's very important reason for you to be gone, for whatever that may be. And call us, let us know. Tippy and I, in particular, have a specialty and a connection with someone high up in Bituach Leumi. If you've ever called Answers, then you know that we can help you with everything. Any of us can help you with all of your questions, but we also all have just a little bit more in terms of specialty. And for Tzipi and myself, Bituach Leumi is one of those specialties. So now you call and you speak to one of us and say, listen, this is what I need to do. I need to go to the States or Canada or wherever you need to go for this very important reason. And we might call our contact and she might even mark your file to say they're gone for this particular period of time and then they plan on coming back. When we talk about coming back, it's not that you have to give the exact date, but you're coming back in this month of said year. When does this not become an issue? Because that's your next question. Like, okay, I've heard enough, but when isn't it going to be a headache for me? Once your residency is established, what does that mean? That means that Bituach Leumi says, you're here. You actually don't really travel so much. Maybe you travel for a couple of weeks in the summer or Pesach or Rosh Hashanah. They see some kind of rhythm. Or they see, wow, you know what? This person is gone every November until March. And the rhythm is set. But that rhythm can't be set until minimally you've completed your first year. I have had people who've had the residency canceled in their third year because in their first year and their second year, they've only spent maybe 100 days in the country. And again, that is not one's center of life. For further questions, please give us a call or send an email. Residency is a very hot topic. It's an important topic because if you've come from the US, you never thought about the concept of residency ever. If you came from the province of Ontario, so you're familiar with the concept through OHIP, the Ontario Health, that they also have a concept of residency because the country wants to give you, but the country also wants you to give them by being a member. Did you know, for example, that Bituach Leumi actually pays your Kupot Cholim thousands of shekel for you to be part of your chosen Kupah? And therefore, when they see that you're not here, they're like, well, what are we paying them for? Because they're not here. We don't know if they're coming back. We don't know what their situation is. And that is the Bituach Leumi and healthcare connection. So many people will say, why do I have to pay Bituach Leumi? I already pay Klalit or Maccabi or Leumit or Muchadet, whoever they have as their healthcare provider. And that's because that foundation that I mentioned in the beginning of our webinar this evening is that Bituach Leumi is what allows you to be part of your Kupat Cholim. The Kupa is the provider of the service that Bituach Leumi is offering you, and hence then you have healthcare. That is why you may remember, probably not, that when you received all of that paperwork at the airport, if you made Aliyah through the airport, that your healthcare registration form actually had the logo of the Bituach Leumi on it. And again, because you can't separate the two. What does a person pay to Bituach Leumi? An individual is going to always pay a healthcare contribution unless they are exempt. Who is exempt from paying a healthcare contribution? Active soldiers, Benot Sherut, girls who are doing community service, housewives. Now, there are those of you on the screen who might not be 20. I'll just go there. And you might say, well, I'm a housewife. It's true that I'm over a certain age, but I'm a housewife. I'm not working. But that is not the definition of a housewife through Bituach Leumi. The definition of a housewife through Bituach Leumi is one who is of employable age according to the Bituach Leumi. We're going to get there in a minute. And who is not working. That means that anyone who is over the age of retirement as determined by the Bituach Leumi is not considered a housewife. Now you see here in yellow the words healthcare contribution, and you see in blue national insurance contribution. What does that mean? I just mentioned about the healthcare contribution, and this is something that everyone is obligated to pay. When are they obligated to pay this? They are typically obligated to pay this at the 6-month mark. You may remember when you were looking into your Aliyah and you wanted to know your rights and benefits, and you were told that healthcare is free for the first 6 months. Well, that's exactly what this means. The Bituach Leumi gave you a benefit of not paying into the healthcare contribution for your first 6 months. How much is that healthcare contribution? Regardless of your age, that healthcare contribution is 120 shekel a month. You most likely will be billed by the quarter. If you are married and under the age of retirement, then only the husband will pay on his wife. A wife cannot pay on her husband. Children don't have any obligation to Bituach Leumi until the age of 18. Some of you who are under the age of retirement, we're going to discuss retirement shortly, I promise. If you are under the age of retirement, some of you may, capital M, may be eligible to receive what is called Demei Kiyum. Demei Kiyum might be familiar to you. It is an extension of your Sal Klita. It is money given as an income support by the Misrad HaKlita in your second 6 months of your first year. If you are eligible for the Demei Kiyum, then you will have an extension of not paying your healthcare contribution until the 1-year mark. Let's say you're working, your healthcare contribution and any contribution to the Bituach Leumi will be taken from your paycheck. Please mute yourself if you are not muted. Please, could everybody please mute themselves? Thank you, Tippy. What you see here is the number 628. You may have already called answers. You might say, oh, I know what that form is because this happened to me. What this says in bold is She'elon lekviat toshavut lechozer michul. Toshavut is residency in Hebrew, a toshav. You might have heard the expression a toshav chozer. because he is a returning resident. He's not a returning citizen, somebody who may have left Israel many years ago and then returned. So if you have lost your residency and you call Nefesh B'Nefesh, we will send you this form to fill out, and then we will, I can't think of the word in English, so it doesn't sound right, accompany you. We will guide you and ask you to send the information to us, and either Tzipi or myself will then be in touch with that contact that I mentioned from Bituach Leumi to have your residency reinstated. Is it as easy as 1, 2, 3? They actually know how many days you've been in and how many days you've been out. Some of you might be thinking, oh, right, I once heard this thing, 180 days, 183 days, 186 days, no days. Where is your center of life? So this is a form that's from Bituach Leumi that is going to ask you lots of questions. What, did you close up shop abroad? Do you have a bank account here? Where is your center of life? Who is a senior citizen as promised? So you have a chart here. This is for those females amongst us. For men, the age of to be considered a senior citizen is 67. It has been a 67 for many, many years. It is meant to be 70 for both populations. And the truth is that this was updated almost 2 years ago now, I think, that while it used to be that all women reached the age of what was considered a senior citizen at the age of 62, you can see here that it is now by birth date, and it is not necessarily 62 for all. It goes all the way up to 65, depending on the year of your birth. This can be found on the Bituach Leumi website, or you could take a screenshot. We're going to come back to it in just a moment. Why did I mention only about the healthcare contribution and the age of retirement? Because for one who is below the age of retirement, there is an additional obligation of something called national insurance. So we spoke about the healthcare contribution, and that is what allows you to be part of the healthcare system. That is what allows you to have other insurances that go beyond the age of retirement, such as long-term care. We're going to talk about pensions and long-term care shortly. The national insurance is for those of you who arrived before the age of retirement and then become eligible for other insurances, such as unemployment, such as disability, such as what's called Kitzbat Yiladim, which is the allotment that people receive for having children up until the age of 18. If you have made Aliyah within a certain period of time prior to your age of retirement, typically 5 years, then it also is what allows you to receive a national pension. For those of you from the United States, I apologize. I'm not sure how the pensions work in Canada, the state pensions, but in the United States, you have to work a certain amount of quarters in order to be eligible for Social Security. Not so in Israel. Everyone is entitled to a state pension if they have paid into it enough years, typically 5 years. The pension is not a lot of money. I guess I'll just say it like it is. It's not a lot of money, but the more years one has worked, if they had that opportunity, the larger that state pension will be. But for all intents purposes, if a person had so many years of paying in, they will automatically be eligible for a state pension. Where do most retirees have their money from? Not only this pension, but their private pensions if they've worked for all of the years. I've worked for many, many years here in Israel, and I will have my private pensions, which will allow me to buy milk and eggs and cheese when I finally retire, because we know that life is a little expensive. Again, when one is working, all insurances to the Bituach Leumi are typically taken from their paycheck. Yes, there are certain instances where that may not be. It might be dependent on age. It might be dependent on how many hours you are working in that job. Okay, so here you have from the Bituach Leumi site, okay, how you can understand what your payment obligation is in terms of Bituach Leumi, both the national and the health. Now, the health is always 120. There are different rates, of course, for someone who is working and for someone who is not working. If you are obligated to pay a national contribution, that sum total will be given to you that will equal both the health and the national. So if you are under the age of retirement, you would be paying 250 shekel a month. That's 130 for your national obligation and 120 for your healthcare obligation. This is overwhelming. It is foreign information. I'm trying to say it all sort of in an easy way and in a way that flows, but it's very overwhelming because it's so, so different. Yes, again, the recording will be sent to you. We talked a little bit about the rights and benefits. We spoke already about when to pay. We didn't speak about how to pay. A person has an opportunity to set up what's called a Horat Keva. Horat Keva is an automated withdrawal either from your credit card or your bank account. This is something that you can set up online if you want to do it through your credit card. There are many foreign credit cards that you can use as well. Remember, if your credit card is expiring or God forbid it gets stolen or lost, these are things when you have an automated withdrawal that you always have to keep up to date. Or you can have the bank sign a piece of paper that you actually physically print out from the Bituach Leumi site and then upload it to the Bituach Leumi, and they will set up your payments that way. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you got something in the mail that said, hi and welcome, and now you're obligated to start to pay? And the truth is, if you were 18, you would get such a letter. But unfortunately, everyone here is not going to get such a letter. And you're supposed to know magically, I guess, ding, now it's my time to start to pay Bituach Leumi, which is why we send out monthly emails. Don't ignore those emails. They say now that you've reached your X month of Aliyah, all the way up to your 12th month of Aliyah. And in the 4th month and in the 6th month, we really talk a lot about Bituach Leumi. We have articles on our website. We really try to bring it home on the fact that Bituach Leumi is an obligatory payment. And if you become in arrears for too long, there are consequences. For someone who has children up to the age of 18, they can lose their kitzbat yiladim, their child allotment. If it is someone such as yourself, that who does not have children up to the age of 18 and you haven't paid and you haven't paid and you haven't paid a long time, not a month or two, but a long time, you might then go to the Kupat Cholim and they might say, oh, we can't help you. There's a stop on your account here by Bituach Leumi. You need to speak to them. Should you ever be told that you need to speak to Bituach Leumi or go to the Bituach Leumi, I'm almost going to beg, please call us first. We will be able to share with you the information in a language and in a culture that you can understand, and then even perhaps make a call on your behalf to truly understand why it is whatever it is that you were told. Let's say you go to that personal portal. Maybe you've been here, 9 months and you listen to this webinar, and the first thing that you're going to do is open up a portal. And you're like, oh my gosh, look at that. Just like she said, we owe or I owe X amount of shekel. And the first thing you're going to want to do, of course, is set up that automated withdrawal, set up that Horat Keva. It's important to note that when you set up the Horat Keva, it's not going to retroactively cover whatever it is you already owe. So then you might need to do 2 steps. You might need to set up the automated withdrawal, the Horat Keva, as well as separately pay the outstanding bill. Again, I can't encourage you enough after being overwhelmed after listening to this webinar to please give us a call, and we're happy on more of an ishi, on more of a personal level to explain your personal questions to you. I didn't look at everybody's video. I don't know who everyone is, and it's important for me to be able to attend to everyone's thoughts and needs. And so if there are those of you attending who have children under the age of 18, you have two specific benefits given to you by the Bituach Leumi. One, as I've mentioned a couple of times, is called Kitzbat Yeladim, and that is an allotment that you get for having children. All Israelis get this benefit up until the age of 18. And an automated savings plan. Tippy, just a sec. As well as an automated savings plan that can then be released to somebody at a certain age, around 21, so that they have literally money in the bank. Yes, Tippy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Miriam, there's a bunch of questions coming in. I'm trying to answer them, but I just wanted to assure everyone that the questions that aren't answered, we will get to them at the end.
Tippy, should I look at them?
No.
The questions that are Choser al Atzmam?
No, we can, I think you should continue and we can address them at the end. Okay?
Okay. All right, fine. Okay, after that commercial break, did everybody take a moment to take a breath? It's very overwhelming. Okay. Disability, mobility, and pensions. So for anyone who has a child up until the age of 18 who may have a general disability, that is something that can be applied for right away. I don't know how long any one person has been here, but that is a form on the Bituach Leumi site. And you will need to provide Israeli documentation that upholds why you are applying for this general disability. If you have a child who is in a special education forum, you may have needed particular paperwork in order for them to be placed into that school. That may or may not be sufficient to apply for general disability. For anyone who may have a family member who's over the age of 18 until the age of retirement, when one applies for general disability, whether that is based on physical or mental health needs, there is a difference between someone who is independent or dependent. Dependent means how many of their daily living needs can they be self-sufficient for: dressing, bathing, hygiene, eating, and all of that, or not. For any one person who is dependent on another for their daily living needs, general disability can be applied for 3 months after arrival, or 90 days. For a person who is independent, whether that is mental health or physical health, then they can apply 9 months to a year after their date of arrival. And that is because, as you may remember, I mentioned the concept of Demei Kiyum. Demei Kiyum is that extension, not shekel for shekel extension of your Sal Klita, but rather it's an income supplement that's given to you if you are not working and are under the age of retirement. And you can then receive that money until your 1-year anniversary. And unfortunately, the Bituach Leumi and the Misrad Klita, they can't differentiate between monies. And so the Bituach Leumi says, well, we can't give this individual money until they stop getting money from the Misrad Klita. And that is why it is so long after arrival that one can apply. Now, let's say, God forbid, a person actually comes in perfectly good health and they've come into a healthcare crisis. So there is other types of services through Bituach Leumi that one can apply for, and usually it's a social worker in the hospital that, based on medical need, they may be eligible for disability and might be short term. for someone who is over the age of retirement. If you, God forbid, come into some sort of medical crisis, or you've made Aliyah over the age of retirement and you have a need for long-term care, that is called chok siyud. We're going to get to it shortly in terms of long-term care. So it's no longer disability for someone over the age of retirement, but it's considered long-term care. Mobility services are available until the age of 67. Who is eligible for mobility services? Somebody who has mobility issues for whatever reason that may be. The services that are offered may be assistance with the purchase of a vehicle, might be assistance with accessories to make it adaptable, make the vehicle adaptable, and so forth. All this information is on the site, and we're also happy to help you on a more personal level. A parking card, a handicap tag, is not under mobility disability. However, you do need proof that you are eligible. You might have a heart condition, you might have whatever condition you might have. It is not at all based on age, it's based on a medical condition. Do not think for even a second that the handicap tag that you have from abroad is an international tag. It is not, and it is a very hefty fine to assume so. It is not hard to apply for a handicap tag. It's a bit time consuming. You know how they say, the shoemaker's son doesn't have shoes. So I've needed to apply for a handicap tag because my mom lives with me for a few months now, and the paperwork is just sitting right behind me, and I just haven't gotten to it. But it's not hard. It is something that's digital. You're going to have to upload documentation, and it will come to you in the mail. It is
I'll help
provided
you,
to
Miriam.
you by the Ministry of Transportation. Sippy, was there a question?
No, I said I'll help you upload that information.
Oh, okay. Poor Sippy. I thank you, Sippy, for joining, even though your voice was left at the office. Again, who is a senior citizen? When I shared my presentation with Sippy, she said, oh, you have this twice. I said, from experience, I have this twice because I mention it a lot. The difference between who is a senior citizen as per the Bituach Leumi, female specific, and who is not. And it doesn't mean that you can't work, but according to the Bituach Leumi, this is what they consider a senior citizen. Us women, we know we can just keep on going. For men, again, that age is 67. And why do I have that slide? Because now we're talking about chok siyud, long-term care services. Chok is a law, and siyud is nursing care. Who is eligible for nursing care? What you see here has nothing to do with being an Oleh Chadash. It has everything to do with being an Israeli resident living in the country. And so now, God forbid, a person has come into a particular need that they need hours of care. They need hours of care to help them with their daily needs because of something that befell them. There are 6 levels of application for long-term care, from the most minor to, God forbid, the most major. And this will influence how many hours of care they can receive for free, as long as they meet not only the medical or the physical criteria, but also monetary criteria, which you see here. So if one is a single, that ceiling in order to be eligible is a little over 13,000 shekel, and then can be reduced by 50% if they have up to almost 20,000 shekel, as you see here. I don't need to read out the slide to you. But what is important to note is that income from abroad will be taken into account. Now, 13,000 and change is a pretty respectable amount on a monthly basis. So just because you get your Social Security from whatever country you may be from, doesn't necessarily exclude you from the possibility of receiving long-term care. Let's say that, God forbid, you are now in need of 24-hour care. To receive 24-hour care, it's 24/6. Each foreign care worker gets a day off. Hours of care are provided by Israeli citizens. 24-hour care, which is sometimes a little bit more invasive in the care, is provided by a foreign care worker, and it's a very different process. And your income still does need to be taken into account for subsidy. It doesn't mean that you can't be eligible for the service. It just means that if you needed 24-hour care and you were eligible for subsidy, you may be paying somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 shekel a month. And if you were not eligible, you might be paying 95 to 10,000 shekel a month. I'm not going to go into it further, but if this is a question that you have, please feel free to call. Some of you may be over the age of 80. Some of you actually, take a step back, might be over the age of retirement. I'm not going to go back to the slide because clearly everyone remembers what I wrote, but somewhere between the age of 62 and 65 for a woman is the age of retirement. If you are of the age of retirement, you might be eligible for a senior card, a Kartis Vatik. This is a tutorial that we have on a previous webinar that was done, where step by step on your smartphone that you can get your digital, as a Kartis Vatik, your digital senior card. What does that digital senior card get you? It gets you discounts into various forms of entertainment, various national parks, wherever there is a senior discount. And it doesn't matter that your birth date is on your ID card. They will want to see this digital Kartis Vatik. This card that you see here on the slide is different. This is an over 80 card that allows you to be exempt from standing in line. Ptor mitor. Ptor means to be exempt. Or, God forbid, if you have a form of disability or if you are receiving long-term care, you get a very, very similar card. But it's not a free-for-all. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. There are also criteria so that it doesn't exempt you from making an appointment, let's say, at the Misrad Apnim. It does not exempt you from standing in line at the Kupat Cholim or at the pharmacy. When you get this card, so it comes with a whole host of do's and don'ts, but I just wanted to stress that it is not everywhere and anywhere that you are then exempt. So you see the shekel here, and next I would like to just have a word or two about Israeli pensions. What we can say sometimes, Tippy and myself, that there are two areas that really repeat themselves. Sometimes it feels on a daily basis. One is the loss of residency, or what is residency? And the other is, I heard that I can get a pension. My neighbor gets a pension. You know, my friend, she made Aliyah 10 years ago. She gets a pension. So I just applied for the pension. I was told that I can't get it. And now look what happened. Or what's very hard for us to hear is, you know, I was in the Misrad Klita, the Misrad Pnim, the post office, some sort of official office, and they said, oh, you should really apply for a pension. I'm sure you are eligible. The only person who is sure that you are eligible is you. There are two types of Israeli pensions. One is called Kitzbat Zikna. This is either for the person who paid in the national contribution for 5 years prior to the age of retirement, or if you are a woman, made Aliyah before the age of 62. What is Kitzba Zikna Meyuchedet? You may know from going to Ulpan that Meyuchad means special. And this is a special welfare-based pension for those of you who made Aliyah over the age of 62 who would like to apply for a pension. Now, this may trigger something that you say, oh, right, you know, I got something from Bituach Leumi. I didn't even ask for it. It had my name and my ID and my address, and it looked very official. So I really thought that I should fill it out. Some of you actually may receive a pension application in the mail automatically. They don't know that you are a millionaire or not a millionaire. It just got sent willy nilly, as my mother would say. Don't complete this form until you speak to anyone in the answers department. And why is that? Well, first of all, eligibility mainly for the Kitzbah Zikna Miuchedet. That's what we're going to focus on because all of you have made Aliyah more recently. Criteria include your foreign passive income. What is foreign passive income? Even if we just start with Social Security, that is foreign passive income. We're not talking about a tax. We're talking about eligibility for another country's pension. And so, if you are up until the age of 70 and you are single, that ceiling is 4,273 shekel monthly. If you are married, that ceiling is 6,751 shekel monthly. That might mean that one of the spouse has zero income and the other spouse has all the income. It doesn't matter. A couple is viewed as a combined income. Up until the age of 79, that ceiling goes just a little bit higher by less than 100 shekel a month. And over the age of 80, that ceiling for a single goes a little higher than that. Again, just a little over 150 shekel a month. Either way, regardless of how old you are, the ceiling is under 4,400 shekel a month for a single and under 6,900 shekel for a couple. That's not a lot of money. And the pension that you would get for it is also not that much money. It might be 1,500 shekel, it might be 1,800 shekel, not too much more than that. Again, you may get this in the mail automatically. It doesn't mean that you're automatically entitled. Somebody might say, I get it. For sure, you're going to get it. It's not a for sure. You don't know what regulations have changed since that person made Aliyah. You don't know, unfortunately, how honest that person was. You don't know pretty much anything that they're not going to tell you because they look the same. They're your friend, they're your neighbor. Please come to us to discuss your personal situation. Now, what is the downside of applying? You may be thinking, I'll apply if I'm not eligible. Okay, so I'm not eligible. I won't get that extra bit of money. What can happen is that you will be back taxed to the time that you applied for all the time that you didn't pay a healthcare contribution and were meant to pay a healthcare contribution. Because the whole reason that Olim Chadashim do not pay a healthcare contribution in their first 6 months is because it is thought that they don't have income. The moment that you reveal that you have income, such as Social Security, they're like, oh, they can be taxed like everybody else and start to pay immediately. There's no benefit for them. And so it's sort of like if you don't ask for the money, they're going to turn a blind eye and say, we know these people, they get their Social Security, they have whatever they have, but they're not asking us for money, and that's okay. That in and of itself is an overwhelming concept, the whole concept about money and income and pension. Now, if you think about it, you might say, I didn't work here. I didn't give into the country. So why would they give me a pension? On the other hand, we're always looking for that extra shekel here and there because we all are. And even more so, if your best friend said, I get it, for sure you're going to get it. But it's not always that for sure. These are some of the links that were mentioned. And in the recording, any other links that Sippy put into the chat, sounds like she's been typing furiously, will also be sent within the recording.
The slides will also be sent as a PDF with all the slides in it, with all the links in it.
Thank you, Tippy. Here's a slide of all the things that we do. I mentioned about the translation station. I mentioned about the volunteers. We gave you our contact information. You know about our monthly open forums. And hopefully, if though for those of you who have made Aliyah within the past 12 months, you're getting your monthly call from what's called your regional coordinator. Regional coordinators are a wonderful project that works within our department of outgoing monthly calls, who then will alert us to say, wow, did you know Miriam Naiman is having a really hard time with whatever the with is? And they will then give over that information to one of us, and then we'll be calling you. And of course, advocacy with all government offices, which is why we're called advocacy. We're at the Knesset. We are trying to make inroads wherever possible to make things smoother. They can't always be made easier, but they can be made smoother. Just the other day, our co-worker in our department was at the Knesset about banking. The next best subject after Bituach Leumi has to be banking. And it was all about money transfers and lots of different things that Olim experience, not always to the positive, and how to make those changes. So call us. We're here to help. Now, I would like to look at.
Miriam,
Um,
if you will just excuse my voice a second, can you, before we look at the questions, this is I'll open some questions. Can you just one uh, repeat the difference between the supplemental health insurance payment and the Sal Briut's regular healthcare payments?
Absolutely. So when you made Aliyah, you all signed up for your Kupat Cholim, and that gave you the opportunity to be part of the healthcare system. The healthcare system has three levels that are eligible for every person from 0 to 120. There's the basic level and two levels of supplemental care. These levels of supplemental care, we're going to call it tier 1 and tier 2. They are called something else depending on the kupa that you have. It is called, the official name is Shaban, Shaban, or Bituach Mashlim. And they both, each level gives you a variety of services. This is something that's an opt-in. We encourage you to opt in, just like more than 80% of the Israeli population also opts in, because it broadens your basket of services beyond the basic. The basic does fill your services, it does, but it also leaves you at the hands of the public system. The supplemental allows you to have opportunity if, God forbid, you need medication that's not within the basket of medications as determined by the Ministry of Health. It gives you opportunity for extended services, sometimes extended therapeutic services. It gives you the opportunity for private doctors that are recognized by your kupa, but to see those doctors very often in a hospital and lots of other services. So this is something that you're going to pay for privately right away. It has nothing to do with Bituach Leumi, which is why we get those phone calls. Why do I have to pay Bituach Leumi? I'm already paying my Kupat Cholim. So these are three levels: basic, tier 1, and tier 2. There's another level by the Kupat Cholim that is not eligible for everyone, and that is private long-term care. And the reason it's not eligible for everyone is because age and pre-existing conditions are taken into account. This, we'll call it a fourth level. It's called Bituach CUD. You may remember I used the term Chok Siud. Siud is nursing. And this Bituach CUD, this long-term care, is a 5-year policy, not 5 years and a minute. I once got a call. It was a distressing call from someone who said, we didn't expect our mother to live this long, and we can no longer keep her in the residential setting that she was, she was in. It was being paid for in part by this policy. But it does take age and pre-existing conditions into account. Obviously, the younger you are, the greater chance that you have of being part of that system, and it stays with you till 120. Okay,
Miriam,
Tzibbi.
I forwarded the questions to you, specifically to you, at the very end of the chat that weren't yet answered.
Okay, I'm going there. Hold on.
I just feel sorry for everybody listening to my voice.
Okay. Is the income retroactive or ongoing income or lack thereof? Once if you get sick, and does it include overseas income, interest, social security, pension? Is that the last question? From Nahum?
I'm checking 1 second. That is one question. There should be one more before that, and I'm sending over another two.
Okay, fine. So is your question regarding a pension? Nahum, shake your head yes or no. No. I don't understand then your question. Would you like to unmute yourself and just ask that question?
It was related to what you were talking about, the income requirement if you get sick and then you need
Care?
care, and you have to, the amount is minimal, but like I'm working now, if I get sick, I stop working, I'm no longer bringing in income.
So that has to do with pension. That doesn't have to do with long-term care. That has to do with pension. And yes, if you at any time when you would apply for pension, your income is taken into account. I'll give you an example. One day I will retire and I will then be eligible for my pension from Bituach Leumi. I am eligible for that pension regardless of the millions of shekel that I have in my bank account. They will ask me what is my income, what money comes steadily into my account. And if it is over a particular amount, I will pay more than the 120 shekel monthly. Just like my contact always says, even the president of Israel pays his healthcare contribution. When you get a pension, you're still paying your healthcare contribution, and it's adjusted from the amount of money that you get per month. I hope that answers your question. Sippy, I don't see any more questions.
Miriam, at the top of the chat, you should be able to click on yourself on your own picture and see, or no. There, you know what? I'll read it to you. That's fine. So there's two questions from Olav. One is, to what extent can I, as a patient, select my healthcare practitioner, find reviews, select English speakers, etc., and then kind of follow up to that? How do I find out what health plan, supplemental private plan covers specific medical procedures, for example, HOLEP, laser surgery for enlarged prostate, or alternative treatments such as chiropractic? So it's more about the healthcare system.
Okay, so the truth is that Tzippy doesn't know this yet, but I'll share it with you, my intimate 100 friends here, is that after presenting this morning, I mentioned, I presented to all of the managers of Leumi clinics throughout the country this morning. I would like to do a spotlight on the do's and don'ts, the ins and outs of navigating the healthcare system on a general level and from a post-Aliyah perspective. So first, this isn't really a healthcare presentation, but I am certainly very happy to answer your question. And I hope that you can all gain from it. And at any point in time you want to leave, I really thank you for joining us this evening. You have total freedom of choosing your own doctor. And depending on your kupa, you even have freedom of choice of physically where that doctor is going to be. Other kupot say, no, we want you to see certain doctors within the zone that you are living in when it comes to, let's say, a family doctor, a general practitioner. But you have your choice. So we do encourage you to look into your medical needs prior to your arrival. And let's say you did that research and gosh, everybody talks about Dr. X and everyone loves Dr. X and Dr. X is taking new patients. So you're also going to join with Dr. X and you meet Dr. X and like, I don't know what these people were talking about. I don't like Dr. X at all. We don't get along, blah, blah, blah. So you change. You have that freedom to change. Now, yes, the regulation is that you're supposed to stick with a doctor every quarter because that's also how they get paid. However, there are real reasons why a person may need to switch a doctor. I'm not talking about a doctor that you might see privately, but more a doctor within your kupa in the clinic setting. Didn't get along, he didn't speak your language, whatever it is, but you are not bound. That's number one. How can you check if certain needs are going to be covered, or we should all be zocha to live till 120? Things come up, and we need to do our research. Who's best in the field? So I'll give you a personal example. My husband just had hernia surgery. He put on our community chat, anybody have hernia surgery recently? Please message me privately. He got a bunch of names, and then we tried to do our research on those names. How did we do our research? So he went back to our family doctor. Did he ever hear of those doctors? If you go to your Kupat Cholim website, you can actually click on the icon of a doctor mentioned and find out, let's say, what languages he speaks. I don't know all of the kupot. I know with Maccabi, for example, many times you can see even where the person went to school, or he might have gone to school to first be an internist, and now he specializes in gastro or whatever it may be. But it does take a lot of research to find out who is best for your need. And the truth is, the same holds true abroad. We're just somehow more familiar with the concept of where we are going to turn in your country of origin.
Can I ask a quick follow-up to that?
Yes.
Is there an Israeli website where is say a plethora of patient reviews of doctors?
No, but I'll tell you what is meant to go live very soon is something similar to that. There's a mental health English speaking database called Get Help Israel, and someone has taken it upon themselves. I was in a big meeting about it. The same thing for medical doctors. So in this Get Help Israel, anybody wants to go look at it, it's a huge database that you can filter by need, by region, by different things for mental health services. And this is going to be the same thing for medical services. So now you need that specialty, and you want to filter by gender, by location, by Kupat Cholim, and that is going to go live very soon. But right now, there isn't anything. I know abroad they do have such things. There are also what's called medical shadchanim in this country. The two most famous are Benny Fisher and Rav Elimelech Boyer, who are very challenging to get a hold of. But if you had a particular need and you wanted to know which hospital or who is best for this need, you can follow their protocols. You usually have to send in information, and then they will share with you, who has the best reputation or who is best for that particular need. Someone asks if they are working and they have an Israeli paycheck, then no, you don't need to set up a payment system because it is automatically being taken from your paycheck. That doesn't mean, however, that you might still want to have a personal site, a personal portal for lots of other reasons. Somebody asked, I thought you have to work for 5 years to be eligible for a pension. Can age 64 be in the 5th year of employment? What is the amount of pension paid based on? It's typically based on the amount of years that you worked, and depending on your year of Aliyah will also influence. So if you potentially made Aliyah at the age of 59 or 60, you will also know if based on the mailing that you receive. Either you're going to receive a mailing. I actually got an email from Bituach Leumi that said I am now eligible for my pension if I chose to do so. I chose not to do so. But if it is sent to you, Cynthia, that says Kitzba Zikna or Kitzba Zikna Miyuchedet, that will give you your answer. Where can you check your
I
residency?
don't understand that. I'm not going to get that mailing until I'm like 65. So I want a plan. I'm needing to know since I'm 59 now. I've been here 1 year. I haven't
Oh,
found
okay, so fine. And for all I know, by the time you get to the age of 64, what year were you born? I can't do the math.
66. So the age of retirement is 64.
Okay, but by the time you get to 64, the age of retirement might be pushed to 68.
So they keep changing them. Okay, but all right. But like theoretically, if they kept it at 64, could my age 64 count as my 5th year of employment so that I've paid enough that I've been a part of the pension system long enough to
Yeah,
benefit?
chances would be very good that you would be eligible. But at least today, note that it's not a huge amount of money. It's about 1,500 shekel.
Mm,
Okay,
Miriam,
it is influenced by the amount of years that you worked.
right.
Miriam,
Yeah.
there's a question. Workplace says Nahum. Workplace says I'm over retirement age, but I came in over the age of retirement. So I thought I'm trying to read it. So I thought
I know
and
the
they need to,
question. I know the question. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just saving your voice. But Nahum, I know that you sent in this question prior, right? This is what you sent in. And as I mentioned at the very, very, very beginning before I officially started, I will be in touch with you tomorrow. Okay.
also a
Next.
question from Jeff Schneider. Jeff, it's a long question. It's a very, also situation specific. You should definitely give us a call or send us an email, and we will be in touch with you about that. Okay?
Will do.
Great. You can say that this is also follow up to the webinar.
Yeah, I will definitely do that.
Okay. I don't know what was answered here. Someone who made Aliyah at the age of 71, would you be eligible for a pension? Only based on your income, as I mentioned earlier. I made Aliyah a month after turning 62. How does that affect Kitzbah Zikna? It depends the age of your retirement. Your age of retirement might not be 62. Depends on your age of retirement, but most likely you would only be eligible for Kitzbah Zikna Meyuchedet, the special pension, even though at 62 you might not be receiving pension from your country of origin. If you live in Israel but work for an American company, excellent. What should you do? Rifki Tyberg. You should speak to an accountant. That is the best thing that you can do for yourself. You should speak to an accountant who is knowledgeable and fluent and accountable for both Israeli and US tax law so that you are paying appropriately. Now, yeah, that is all I'm going to say on that topic. Okay, I'm looking for other things that were not answered. I don't see anything else. Tippy, anything outstanding?
I have a question. You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. How do right now, and I don't work. Do I when after 6 months you said I will have to what they call the taking the money from the Leumi.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need
No, Mayor, after 6 months, you're going to go back. You arrived in August, right, Mayor?
yes,
Beginning of September, August, because I
yes.
was at your arrival.
I know, I remember.
So if we count September, October, November, December, January, February will be your 6 month mark. And if you are still not working and your wife is not working, or your wife is working, but you have an income within the criteria, you can find that on our website. Then you can go back to the Misrad HaKlita and discuss with your representative there about the eligibility for Demei Kiyum. If you are found eligible for Demei Kiyum, then you will let Bituach Leumi know, and you will not end up paying anything to Bituach Leumi for a year.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Now, One second. Now, besides the basics insurance that we have right now, I'm under Maccabi. I have a basic one. Let's say I went to the doctor and I had to buy something for my daughter, and the Kupat Kholim did not cover fully the price because I heard there is also like Maccabi Shali, Kupat Maccabi Zahav. This is. Can you tell me more about it? This is.
You know what, Mayor? Because it's more healthcare specific and not Bituach Leumi, please give us a call tomorrow, and I'm more than happy to discuss it with you. Okay, you can call at *3680, and very happy to tell you the differences between the supplemental plans. And at this time, because so much time has passed since your date of Aliyah, how it will work for you to apply for supplemental care.
What, it's too late already or something
No,
changed?
no, call me tomorrow,
Okay,
or
I
call
got you.
any of us, B'simcha.
Okay.
Or you can call the star number and you can ask for me. 1 second. A physician who's working part-time in Israel and part-time abroad. What are the applications? So first and foremost, where is your residency? That is very important. Are you a single person or are you married and you have family here? To really at first focus on your residency. That's number one. And number two, if you're asking just in terms of your contribution, definitely speak to an accountant. That's very important. Lynn had a question. Lynn?
Yeah, hi. I put it in the chat, but I don't know if it was too long or whatever. I don't know if it was missed. So I'm over the age of retirement. I came just over a year ago in September of 24. And the only job I was able to find is an RN in a field that they don't even have here. Nurse anesthetist, it seems like they never heard of it, the issue. Anyhow, I won't go on about that. But they retire all nurses at 67, whether you're healthy or not. And so I was offered a job to teach, so I gave lectures at Tal, and I don't know if they enrolled me in a pension without, I don't.
They might have. That would be a private pension.
Yeah, but now I'm getting things from Bituach Leumi, and I didn't understand it. It did have one of the words you mentioned before. That's what I put in the chat because I didn't even understand what the word meant.
Lynn, what city do you live in? Yerushalayim?
Yeah.
So perhaps you'd like to make an appointment. Sippy, are you able to put the link for Translation Station in the chat? It's by appointment, and then more one-on-one, we can go through those things with you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
B'simcha.
Thank you.
Sippy, you had a question, Sippy, or you raised your hand?
I'm just putting this in now. So I have been going back. I'm just curious if you know the answer, Miriam. I've been going back with one of our Olot here, Anna. And she can't seem to find, and I just looked and sent her screenshots. She sent me screenshots. She's not yet at the stage to make payments, but she said, does it hurt to already upload my credit card or my bank account information? And I said, no, certainly do it, and they'll only charge you once you need to pay. However, maybe you've had this experience. She sent me a screenshot. She doesn't have the option of what's called Gvia, maybe because there's nothing yet to charge her.
I'll tell you three things. Well, first of all, Tzipi, and unfortunately, more than half the people have now left. But for those of you who are still here, I mentioned about losing residency if you are gone for too long. If Bituach Leumi sees that you're paying your Bituach Leumi while you're away, the chances decrease significantly that your residency will be taken away as quickly as another person if they are not already in their payment schedule. How can you be in the payment schedule? You can set up the payment at any time. You can set up your personal portal. They can have your information. So by the time they're ready to bill you, it's ready to go. However, if you don't have it there, okay, I see, I'm going back to the screenshot where, correct, you don't see here Gvia. First and foremost, I don't know how long it is you've been in the country. Have you been in the country less than 6 months? Yes?
The gist of the question was yes, that she's not yet been here a full 6 months or 6
Okay.
months.
Okay, so I see from your screenshot that you are welcome to set up a payment plan, but there's no there's no billing that's listed because they haven't billed you yet. So you can put in your information, but they haven't billed you. Now, for some people, it doesn't even say give us your information, your payment information. It doesn't say that, and it doesn't say billing. And that's because they may see that you are a certain age, and the Bituach Leumi is waiting to see if you're going to apply for a pension or not. Doesn't happen so often, but it does. And Anna, I'm so happy that you have the personal portal so that you can actually pay attention to these things and understand how it affects you. I would wait to see once you get to your 6th or 7th mark if this changes automatically. Any other questions? Oh,
I'm going to add one more word. I just
Okay.
looked, Anna. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to add one more word. So I just saw Anna has not been here 6 months, and you are also under retirement age. So certainly, as Miriam said, the Bituach Leumi could be waiting to see if you will be employed also before your 6 months are up, and then you won't need to have any of this personal information, of the bank account information or credit card information put in.
Yeah,
But anyway, as I wrote many times, you're welcome to be directly in touch with us by phone or by email. We'll be happy to assist.
What is the phone number, please? Do you have the phone number for
I will
us?
put it in again.
Yeah, Tzipi and Miriam, this is Jeff. Just as a bit of information, I did make Aliyah in June of 24. I made arrangements to have my Israeli bank account debited for my Maccabi charges on a monthly basis. I ended up leaving in August. I was away until the following July. We hoped that having paid it Maccabi for that period of time, we would not have Bituach Leumi issues. Tzipi, you and I and Miriam will talk. I have had issues. The funny thing, and I put funny in quotes, when I landed in July of 2025 that Bituach Leumi has thrown me out of the system. About a week later, I got another Maccabi bill. And I said, wait, guys, we have to make a decision. If I'm in, I'm in. If I'm out, I'm out. But stop taking my money if you threw me out. So we'll talk about that when I play with the star number later on tomorrow.
Yes, and I look forward to it. I love that. I think it's Bituach Leumi is the reason, Sippy, that I have yet to retire because I love the challenge of Bituach Leumi. I don't like doing puzzles, but I love the challenge.
Yeah, you need to see a doctor about that. But we can talk about that tomorrow as well, Miriam.
Okay, wait, there were a couple of other questions here I just would like to pay attention to. One was very important. You cannot pay Bituach Leumi annually. You pay it quarterly. Now, Naomi mentioned something very, very important, and thank you for sharing, that she went to go set up her personal portal, and there was an issue with the phone number. So sometimes they say your phone number doesn't match or your details don't match, and nothing can be more annoying. There are a couple of reasons. The most popular can be that you changed your phone number from the number that you got from the Misrad HaKlita, or maybe you never got a number from the Misrad HaKlita, to a different number. There is a way to update your information 2 ways. One, I'm going to go just to show you. Give me a minute. On the Bituach Leumi site, I'm going to share my screen in a minute in English. I think it's here. Yes. And I'll even translate this into English for you. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. here. So you see here it says the word support. So that's an 04 number. They're not bad in English, to speak English. But if you have trouble, you can call us. There's also another area that is for digital information that I don't see as quickly as I would like to, but I know
Miriam,
that
because they've made a small change in the site, quite honestly, we need to look at it. There is also a PDF that, like just a one-page form that you can fill out. I'll put the link in now, and we can also reference it. That can be filled out easily and sent in, uploaded to Bituach Leumi electronically. But what you're used to seeing, I noticed earlier today, is no longer there.
oh, okay, well, there you go.
We'll talk about it tomorrow, and we'll be sure to update everybody in the follow-up.
Okay, perfect. Where do you register to make an online account? In Hebrew? Either way, in Hebrew or English, there's like an icon, a red icon of like a head. That is where you would go to register. I think with that, Barry, you have the last question?
Yeah, you probably answered it already because I got on about 10 minutes late and you were talking about residency. I had submitted a question of what is the length of time and frequency at which you can travel, in my case, back to America in that first year. And you were answered some, but I missed the specifics.
So the answer is, where is your center of life?
Right.
Where do you send, it's not an amount of days. It's not 1 day, 180 days, whatever it is. It is, where is your center of life objectively and subjectively? Do you own a home? Do you rent a home? Are you in Israel 7 months a year? Are you in Israel 3 months a year? It has
Right.
nothing to do. It's the year is it's cumulative amount of time, and perhaps you missed me saying that this is very specific to the first year, but not exclusively. It's until the Bituach Leumi sees your rhythm in which you travel and why you travel.
So if I leave for 2 months and inform Bituach Leumi and I come back, and I leave a month later to go for another 2 months and I come back, but I'm in Israel for 8 months, 7 months.
So
do they stop and they look at me and question me?
Well, no one's stopping you at the airport. It's
Right,
more
I know.
of a question of, in that second trip, let's say, you may end up getting the email that I referenced that you may have missed.
I heard that.
What's your story?
Right. Okay. So it really is a function of how Bituach Leumi decides on your situation.
Yes. And you know what? I think with that, we're going to close. First of all, a round of applause for Naomi, who created a Bituach Leumi account. I think she gets a big shout out. Kol hakavod lach. But what I was going to say is that Bituach Leumi is sometimes painfully very, 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 very individual. So Tzipi and I, who are of similar age, can both apply for X, and Tzipi might get and I might not, and so forth and so forth. And the Barry, who we just heard from, might be out of the country for 5 months with no issue. And my friend Nachum Katlowitz might be out for a day, and he might have an issue. Not really for a day. But the point is that it is very, very individual. But really, like their jingle goes, they're there for you from the moment you arrive till Mea V'Esrim. Why do I say Mea V'Esrim? Because it includes burial in this country for free in the cemetery of the city in which you are living. But let's end on a positive note. It's going to rain. It's going to pour. Be safe. If you're driving, Israelis are crazy drivers and even crazier in the rain. They're not safer in the rain. They're crazier in the rain. Maybe they think they can drive between the raindrops. So be safe tomorrow. but enjoy the blessing of the rain. You will soon see all of those, sort of crispy brown fields that you may have passed over the summer months are now this gorgeous, luscious green. And Hanukkah is coming. So on behalf of Tzipi and myself and our whole team, we wish you a Hanukkah Sameach. Thank you so much for joining, and we look forward to hearing from you. Kol tu. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Miriam. I just want to reiterate for those of you who are still on, you will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording and other things and the slides, but give us 2 to 3 days. Thank you so much.
Thank you.